Oh, someone's trying to touch Mama.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Wild Ones Book Club. So let's see which book won the poll. So the poll is up for 7 days, 1 week. After that, I close it. And the winner, it was so toit.
Yes, you are toit like a tiger.
But it seems that Ministry of Time won by 1 vote. So that will be the choice. I have it on ebook from the library, so I don't have a physical copy of that one. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So I don't mind the cover with the graphics and the galaxy in the background. I think it's rather eye-catching. It has a 3.69 rating on Goodreads. So not super impressive. This one is a mix of genres, so it's historical because it goes back in time. It's sort of fantastical fantasy, sci-fi, speculative fiction, romance kind of thing. But basically you have this department that is gathering expats from throughout history, and their agent is tasked with sort of getting one of these expats from, where is he from in time? 1847. So you've got a modern gal and a very old-fashioned gentleman, and naturally I think that they must strike up a romance together, but we'll see how that goes. And the other books, so I went to the Happy Valley bookstore. I think this place is fantastic. I would 100% go again. So it's a mixture of books and like homewares and all sorts of things. I like the vibe. I like the space in there. Obviously I'll put some footage up above. And for me, so this time, as you might have heard in a previous vlog, I'm not just choosing it based on the cover, because we all know how that's been working out for me. So instead, it's cover and blurb. I also am only choosing books though that I don't already have on my TBR, because it has to be something I really don't know anything about. I don't know its score or anything like that. I'm not influenced by others. So the book that I picked is Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh. So I've read My Year of Rest and Relaxation by this author, and I thought that was pretty decent. I like the writing style. I absolutely love this very colorful, I go for color, it turns out. Wardrobe, mostly black. Books, the brighter the better. So this is a very cool, it's a very matte cover. This was 23 Australian dollars. And I'll read you the blurb. While on her daily walk with her dog in the woods near her home, Vesta comes across a chilling handwritten note. Her name was Magda. Nobody will ever know who killed her. It wasn't me. Here is her dead body. Shaky even on her best days, Vesta is also alone and new to the area, having moved here after the death of her husband. Her brooding about the note grows quickly into a full-blown obsession. Who was Magda, and how did she meet her fate? So let's have a look at the ratings. Oh my god, that is so low. It's a 3.25. Holy shit. That is, yeah, normally I won't even look at books that are under a 3.5 because of experience with books being under a 3.5 not being good. Okay, but that, look, I am rather contrarian in my likes, so maybe hopefully this will come into play with this one. I know that Otessa Moshfegh is a author that not a lot of people jive with. So let's see. We'll go in with zero expectations for this one. But those are the two books, and let's get reading. Okay, so I've read a bit. I'm using this crochet bookmark that I made because I feel like It's a vibe. So I've read 50 pages and that is the first chapter. Those are some long chapters. I'm personally not a fan of the long chapter. 50 pages for one chapter is a lot in one sitting. I don't like to abandon a book partway through a chapter. It's the completionist in me. So I think that also could deter a lot of people from wanting to give this a good rating. The main character, Vesta, it starts off with her walking her dog and she finds the note. So she starts thinking about the note. Is it just a teenage boy that was writing a story and then abandoned it? Or is it actually something sinister that she should be worried about? So the first chapter, you're just in her head. Her voice seems a bit antsy and anxious, and she's going over the note, and then she's thinking about how she got her dog, and then she's thinking about the death of her husband, and then a lot about the cabin that she now lives in Levant and the area surrounding it, and then just her day-to-day sort of routine. And then she'll go back to the note and then back to her husband. So that's the main thing that she's thinking about at the moment. I'm not enraptured. I'll say that. I don't particularly love this character so far, and her thoughts are okay. Like, it's a lot of info dumping in a way, all about her and what she's been doing and how things are in her life currently. So I'm hoping it gets more interesting than this. I am keeping the low rating in mind, so I'm like, maybe it won't. Maybe this is the whole book. But yes, so that's the first chapter, the first 50 pages. This is, let's see how many pages in total this is, 250. So I'm just about like, what, a fifth of the way through. So yeah, we'll see if it gets a little bit exciting. Hopefully maybe she has an interaction with some other people besides her dog. Okay, so I've just finished chapter 2, which was another 47 pages. Oh, it's so long. They're so long. And in this chapter, Vesta goes to the supermarket, and in her head, she's fat shaming a lady. So that's lovely. Vesta is not very likable, guys. And the rest of the chapter, she is just sort of obsessing over who was Magda and who killed her. She thinks Magda might have been an Eastern European like her, maybe from Bulgaria. And she's just going to the library and Googling, did Magda live in Levant? How do you find a killer? It's just not very interesting at the moment. Hey, Blue. Blue, no. What's one of my videos without a cat intermission? Hey, babes. So she's so cute though. So yeah, at the moment, it's kind of boring. And I definitely would have DNF'd it if I wasn't reading it for this video. So we'll see how we keep going. I'll have to turn the light on in a second because the sun has set. I'm on the last lights now. So now we're up to chapter 3, 100 pages into the book. The last chapter being 7. So there are only 7 chapters in this 250-page book. So we'll see how we go. Okay, there's Nova. So I've just read chapter 3, which was only 30 pages this time. And that whole chapter was just all about her hypothesizing who Magda was. What did she look like? What were her favorite foods? What was her personality? And I'm just not interested. I don't know if Magda's real or not. This is just a lady that's hypothesizing about stuff, and that's not very interesting to me. To read in a story, a fake character thinking up a fake character. On to chapter 4. Okay, so the next chapter, she gets pulled over for speeding and driving erratically by an officer named God. She goes back to her house with her dog and thinks that somebody's been there. And she writes a note saying that if I'm dead, it was probably Officer God who killed me. She seems super paranoid right now and very unhinged. I think maybe the isolation, living on her own, she's sort of gotten overexcited by her imagination now and is feeling like threats everywhere. We still don't know if Magda is real, if somebody killed her, no idea. It's all just still in her head. Okay, so this chapter, Magda went to the library again, and she was talking to a woman there who was in the bathroom who'd lost her car keys. So she offered to give her a lift home, and she drove her home. And once she got back to her house, her dog's missing. So she thinks someone let themselves into her house and let the dog out. Okay, so I just read that chapter. She goes searching for her dog in the woods, ends up on her neighbor's property. She faints, so they bring her inside. They're having a party. The wife has terminal cancer and she wants to celebrate before she dies. And they said they'll keep an eye out for her dog. she then walks to the corner store and asks the guy there, have you seen my dog? And then she walks home, falls down in her front yard, starts thinking about her ex-husband. Turns out her ex-husband was a perv and was assaulting or having affairs with his female students at the university. And she didn't really like him that much, even though she loved him. And that's it. Dog hasn't come back yet. And she feels like the dog is the only one who really loved her and whom she loved in return. So I've got one chapter left. I thought I'd film myself reading the last chapter. Hello, beautiful Bluebell, because it's not that long. So let's keep going. Bluebell. Okay, her dog's come back. What the was that, man? Okay. So the last chapter, she's cooking a meal for her dog. She's thinking again about her gross, dirty, lecherous, dead husband. And then her dog goes to attack her, and in self-defense, she ends up stabbing him. And he supposedly then goes and dies under her table after having ripped up all of the notes she made about who this Magda person might be. And then she goes off into the woods and decides that she was meant to write her story, her last lines all along. My name was Vesta. I lived and died. Nobody will ever know me, just the way I've always liked it. And then she goes and lies down in the woods, and she's part of the darkness. She blends in perfectly, and that's how it ends. What was the point of this? I don't like it. I really don't like it. I felt like that was pointless. The character isn't likable. I didn't particularly love the writing style. It's confusing, and yeah, okay. So an animal gets killed by its own owner in the end as well. Was the dog rabid when it returned from the woods, and is that why it attacked her? I don't know. Wow. I think 3.25 is a generous rate. A haunting meditation. I don't think so. Look, there's nothing really poignant about it for me. I didn't like really anything about it. The setting was kind of cool, like the little town. But what? Look, 1.5 stars maybe? Like, yeah, I feel like that's what I'm going to rate it. I didn't hate it. I just felt like it was a waste of my time. And I didn't particularly enjoy anything about it or find it entertaining. So I didn't mind the scenes with the woman she helped at the library. That was probably the highlight of the book, going to that lady's house and hearing that lady talk about her son and Vesta finally acting like a nice human being. So yeah, I'm going to give this 1.5 stars. And I will probably start Ministry of Time tonight in bed and give you an update on that tomorrow. Hopefully that is a lot better than this was. Hey guys, so I'm back from my date yesterday. Hello, Blue. And once again, amazing person. Just felt like we'd been friends our entire lives, so that kind of connection, but it was still a platonic connection for me. I just didn't feel the chemistry, didn't feel the romantic attraction. I would like to be friends. I have yet to meet a man on a date that is cool with just being friends, so I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, it makes me sad. If I could just flick a switch and make the pheromones pheromone, I would. But they're not, and I will not force my body to do things it doesn't want to do. So that was that. Okay, I have started reading Ministry of Time. So far, so good. I do like the sort of humorous tone that's in it. I'll read you a little bit so you can sort of see what I mean by that. Anyone who has ever watched a film with time travel or read a book with time travel or disassociated on a delayed public transport vehicle by considering the concept of time travel will know that the moment you start to think about the physics of it, you are in a crock of shit. And I appreciate that, because that's how I feel about time travel stuff. I love it, but at the same time, I can't think too much about it or it's not going to make sense. So I'm glad it did talk about that. And the first chapter opens up with her being told that she's about to be placed as the bridge for the guy who's been plucked out of time, kidnapped out of time rather. She is a Cambodian refugee, and there is actually quite a bit of commentary about political stuff, feminism, refugees. So I wasn't expecting that, but I have welcomed it. And I'll give you an example. For instance, she's talking about the expats. So these are the people that have been taken from their time and plonked in this one. Assuming, so with the expats, they've only chosen people that they know were going to die. So just in case they do die from the time traveling, they don't feel as bad, because they're going to die anyway. Assuming that the expats survived, that meant they would be people, which is a complicating factor. When dealing with refugees, especially en masse, it's better to not think of them as people. It messes with the paperwork. So I've been quite happily surprised by it so far. I like the writing. Like I said, it also has a humorous tone. One part that I just don't understand is that she does mention originally they thought it would be best to place these expats with therapists as their live-ins. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that does make sense. Why didn't you do that? Like, these people are going through extraordinary amount of change all at once that would be overwhelming for any human brain. Why wouldn't you have a therapist on hand for them to help them process everything and to be there when they're having like meltdowns and freakouts? But instead they decided it would be better for them to have a friend. I'm like, can the therapist not also be a friend to these people? I'm side-eyeing the choices there, because the main FMC is a translator. That's her expertise. So I'm like, how are you equipped to deal with this guy and help him assimilate into the current century? Because he's from so long ago that just, I can't imagine actually what it would be like just to be placed so far in the future with all of these things that were just not even conceivable at that time. So look, to say that he's not coping very well is an understatement, but also placing people together that have the same romantic preferences is just inviting hookups. I thought, well, if you wanted them to have a friend, wouldn't you choose someone of a gender or type that person could not be romantically interested in? I just feel like, hello, it complicates things a bit, you know what I mean? Like, he's already quite, not perturbed, but unnerved by the fact that her calves show, wasn't done in the day. So yeah, there's already a bit of tension there. Blue, please don't knock it over. I beg of you, darling. Curiosity in the cat, hey? Satisfaction brought it back though. So yeah, where are you going? This cat, I love her, but she's a bit clumsy and she doesn't land on her feet, so I don't want you to injure yourself. I'm enjoying it. So first chapter in, I like the style. I'm interested to see where it goes. I like all of the commentary that's being brought up. And yeah, so far so good. Love you so much. Okay, so I'm about halfway through the book. Excuse the pimple patch. I'm trying to stop that from getting bigger. I am very confused as to what is going on. So they've just been sort of teaching the expats about racism and sexuality and modern vernacular and all of that sort of thing. The FMC is starting to get romantic feelings towards her expat Graham. He's not really reciprocating that at all. Sort of is alluding to them forming a bond, but I'm just not feeling it. And I'm not feeling the book. The writing has changed a bit. It's a bit confusing. I just don't understand what is happening. And it's become a bit dry. There seems to be agents getting assassinated and agents from the future are trying to kill them. And she's starting to suspect that maybe this mission isn't just about getting people from the past and seeing what effects it has on them. Maybe it's got to do with formulating some kind of weapon. So it's going more now into like the government conspiracy kind of thing. Yeah, this just was not what I was expecting it to be. I thought this book was going to be kind of funny and romantic and have a bit of action. And no, no. It's like quite serious. And I'm not loving the seriousness, to be frank. Yeah, so I'm halfway through. We'll keep going and we'll see how we go. And Chanel, this is a reminder that you're meant to also at the end of this video put up the poll for the next book choice. Let everybody know what the next 4 book choices are, because I think I might forget to do that. But yeah, I'm going to keep reading and let you know how it goes.
I so badly want to just like push Sylvia off that.
Okay, so I finished The Ministry of Time. Before I get into the rest of the story, let me tell you a bit more about the MMC Graham. So he is a chain smoking hunter. He likes to start his day with a gross bath filled with the ashes of his cigarettes, come downstairs encased in a plume of smoke, grab his gun, go outside and shoot some squirrels, babes, bring them back in, ask you if you want a hat made out of squirrel fur. Top that with his very antiquated opinions about a lot of things and his refusal to watch films and his just general stoic curmudgeonly nature. No to all of the above. I did not like him as a character. I didn't like any characters in this book, to be honest. So let's talk about the rest of the book. So I definitely ended up finally swinging more into the sci-fi part. Like I said, the first half of the book was quite boring, just them talking to these expats about the world. There is romance. It turns out Graham does like the FMC. Could have fooled me. They end up being intimate and it's just, it's a little bit spicy. There were some parts that I enjoyed. Some parts were just awkward AF. He's only ever been with men because that's all that was there on the ships at sea while he was in the military. So never been with a woman. I didn't care for the romance. I didn't care for the characters. The big plot twist, the massive twist in this is that the FMC's handler, so her boss in this, is actually her from the future. So she's done a Back to the Future sort of situation. And the reason that she didn't recognize herself is because supposedly her face had been altered by going back and forth in time and gave her the look of like severe cosmetic surgery. But then that didn't happen to the expats or the other agents from the future that came back in time. And yeah, it turns out her and her husband Graham, the expat, are very high up in the ministry in the future, and they were trying to save some of the other expats that were being killed in the past. Yeah, it was confusing. It's messy. I didn't like it. I didn't really love it, you know? So it just wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a really fun time. I was expecting humor and romance and adventure and some sci-fi stuff, but it was more, I don't know, it was kind of trying to be serious, but it was just boring and confusing, pretty much. It was a bit of a letdown. I was expecting a lot from it, I guess, based on the synopsis, a good time at the minimum. And I couldn't say that I had a good time. It was an okay time, but not a good time. So yeah, Ministry of Time, is it worth your time? I don't know, like read it at the beginning. I think the first chapter was probably the best chapter, but then a couple chapters in, that's what to expect in terms of the writing and the way that the characters interact with each other. You get all of the sci-fi stuff right at the end with the portal doors and finding out who's double-crossing whom, and then the two characters are separated because Graham feels betrayed by the FMC because he finds out, oh, you were actually that person from the future, that was you, and I think you're to blame for some of my friends being killed. And so he just skedaddles, which is really, it's not her fault. That's current her didn't really do a lot of things wrong. She didn't really do much at all, to be honest with you. But then at the end, you see a couple of years later, he sends her a postcard and she's going to try and figure out from that postcard where he is, because it turns out he actually does love her. Oh, you little caca, don't scratch my legs. But yes, so this WildOnes book club wasn't super successful. I didn't really come away with an amazing book. Ow! Why are you scratching me? Now we'll go on to the picks for next month. So as usual, the poll will be up in the community tab for 1 week, and you get to vote which book you want to see me read in full and do spoilers of. And let's get on to it. Okay, so let's get on to the books that you can vote for the next WildOnes Book Club. So we're going to start with a novel love story by Ashley Poston. So it says, a professor of literature finds herself caught up in a work of fiction. Literally. Eileen Merriweather loves to get lost in a good happily ever after. The fictional kind anyway. Because at least imaginary men don't leave you at the altar. She feels safe in a book at home, which is why she's so set on going to her annual book club retreat this year. She needs good friends, cheap wine, and grand romantic gestures. But when her car breaks down, she finds herself stranded in a town that's right out of a novel. Because it is. This place can't be real, and yet she's there, in one of her favourite romance series. It feels like home, and it's perfect, and Elsie is sure that's why she must be here, to help the town to its storybook ending. Except there's a character in Ella Ratton that she can't place. A grumpy bookstore owner with mint green eyes, an irritatingly sexy mouth, and impeccable taste in novels. And he does not want her finishing this book. Which is a problem because Elsie is beginning to think the town's happily ever after just might be intertwined with her own. So that is the first option, a novel love story by Ashley Poston. The next choice is The Witchstone by Henry H. Neff, an unforgettable, high-stakes, laugh-out-loud funny novel. It blends the merciless humour of The Good Place with the spellbinding fantasy of Neil Gaiman's American Gods. Meet Laszlo, 800-year-old demon and Hal's least productive curse keeper. From his office beneath Midtown, he oversees the Drakeford curse, which involves a pathetic family upstate and a mysterious black stone. It's a sexy enough assignment. Colonial origins, mutating victims, etc. But Laszlo has no interest in maximising the curse's potential. He'd rather sunbathe in Ibiza, quaff martinis and hustle the hustlers on Manhattan's subway. Unfortunately, his division has new management, and Laszlo's ratings are so abysmal he's given 6 days to shape up or he'll be melted down and return to the primordial ooze. Meet Maggie Drakeford, 19-year-old cursebreaker. Why does she have to be 19? All she's ever known is the dreary corner of the Catskills where the Drakeford curse has devoured her father's humanity and is rapidly laying claim to her own. The future looks hopeless, until Laszlo appears at the Drakeford farmhouse one October night and informs them they have 6 days to break the spell. Can Maggie trust the glib and handsome Laszlo? Of course not, but she can't pass up an opportunity to save her family. Thus begins a breakneck international adventure that takes our unlikely duo from a hot dog stand in Central Park to the mountains of Liechtenstein, a 5-star hotel in Zurich, and even the time-travelling vault of a demonic crime boss. As the clock ticks down, tough as nails Maggie and conniving Laszlo will uncover a secret so profound that what began as a farcical quest to break a curse will eventually threaten the very lords of hell. I wonder what genre they call this. Urban fantasy, paranormal, supernatural humour. I was going there, there's got to be some humour in there because that sounded funny AF. And then we've got The Undermining of Twyla and Frank by Megan Bannon. And this is a romantasy. It's a heartwarming fantasy with best friends to lovers, rom-com twist, When Harry Met Sally, but with dragons. Set in the delightful demigod and donut-filled world of Tanria. The entire town of Eternity was shocked when widowed middle-aged Twyla Banneker partnered up with her neighbour and best friend Frank Ellis to join the Tanrian Marshals. 8 years later, Twyla and Frank are still patrolling the dangerous land and the former prison of the old gods. Twyla might look like a small-town mum who brings cheesy potatoes to funerals and whips up a batch of cookies for the school bake sale, but her career in law enforcement has been a welcome change from the domestic grind of mum life. Fortunately, a recent decrease in the on-job peril has made Twyla and Frank's job a lot safer and a lot less exciting. So when they discover the body of one of their marshals covered in liquid glitter, and Frank finds himself the inadvertent foster dad to a baby dragon, they are more than happy to be back on the beat. Soon the friends wind up ensnared in a nefarious plot that goes deeper than any lucrative Tanrian mineshaft. But as the danger closes in, and Twyla and Frank's investigation becomes more complicated, so does their easy friendship. And Twyla starts to realize that her true soulmate might just be the person who's lived next door all along. So that was the undermining of Twyla and Frank. And the last choice for this is called Kitten Tits by Holly Wilson. This is a litfic with a bit of magical realism and historical elements. A feral, heart-busting, absurdist debut about Molly, a rambunctious and bawdy 10-year-old searching for friendship and ghosts. It's 1992, and 10-year-old Molly is tired of living in the fire-rotted, nun-haunted house of a semi-cooperative living community of peace-face inaction, with her formerly blind dad and grieving Evelyn. But when 23-year-old Jeannie, a dirt bike-riding ex-con with a questionable past, moves in, she becomes the object of Molly's adoration. She might treat Molly terribly, but they both have dead mums and potty mouths, so naturally, Molly can't seem to leave Jeannie alone. When Jeannie fakes her own death in a hot air balloon accident, Molly runs away to Chicago with a stolen credit card and a sweet pair of LA Gear heat waves to meet her pen pal DeMarcus and hunt down Jeannie. What follows is a race to New Year's Eve, as Molly and DeMarcus plan a seance to reunite with their lost mums in front of a live audience at the World's Fair. A surrealist and bold take on the American coming-of-age novel, Holly Wilson's debut is about the intricacies of loss, grief, and friendship. So those were the 4 options. Feel free to go and vote. You have 1 week. And until the next WildOnes Book Club, stay wild, Star Child.